Welcome to American Scandal Report by Scoob. I'm your host, OZ Dalton, June 5th, 2013. Four words appear on screens around the world that would change everything we thought we knew about privacy, ongoing daily basis. The Guardian newspaper publishes a secret court order commanding Verizon to hand over telephone records of millions of Americans to the National Security Agency. Every call, every day, no exceptions. But that was just the beginning. 24 hours later, the Washington Post drops a bombshell that would shake Silicon Valley to its core. A classified PowerPoint presentation. 41 slides stamped top secret. The title, PRISM US984XN. 9 company logos fill the screen. Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, Apple, YouTube, Skype, AOL, Paltalk. The slide reads ominously, collection directly from the servers of these US service providers. Your emails, your photos, your searches, your chats, your videos, everything you've ever uploaded to the cloud. The NSA has been collecting it all since 2007 and nobody knew. This is not science fiction. This is not conspiracy theory. This is verified fact, confirmed by declassified court documents, admitted by the government, proven by internal NSA slides that were never meant to see daylight. Welcome to the story of PRISM. How your privacy was stolen, how tech companies you trusted became government informants, and how a secret court approved it all in the darkness. This is how a 29-year-old contractor brought down the world's most sophisticated surveillance apparatus, and why more than a decade later, the watching has only intensified. March 12th, 2013. Edward Snowden sits at his desk at the NSA's Regional Operations Center in Hawaii, watching history unfold in real time. On his screen, a live feed from Washington shows Director of National Intelligence James Clapper testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Ron Wyden asks a direct, almost innocent question. Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans? Clapper shifts uncomfortably in his seat. No, sir. Wyden presses forward like a prosecutor, sensing weakness. It does not? Not wittingly, Clapper responds, the lie hanging in the air like smoke. Snowden knows this is a blatant falsehood. He's been watching the surveillance apparatus from the inside for years. First at the CIA, then at Dell Managing Systems for the NSA, now at Booz Allen Hamilton, one of America's largest defense contractors. He knows what Clapper knows. The NSA is collecting everything, and they're doing it deliberately, systematically, and on an unprecedented scale. 3 days later, on March 15th, Snowden makes a decision that will destroy his life, but potentially save American democracy. He applies for a new position at Booz Allen Hamilton, not for career advancement, but for access. The job gives him entry to even more classified documents, more evidence of what he's beginning to understand is the largest surveillance program in human history. For 2 months, Snowden becomes a digital archaeologist of government overreach. He copies thousands of files, PowerPoint presentations, court orders, internal newsletters, policy documents, legal memos. Each document is another piece of evidence that the government he's sworn to serve has turned its most powerful weapons inward, against its own people. He encrypts everything, knowing that what he's about to do will make him the most wanted man in America. On May 20th, 2013, Snowden boards a flight from Hawaii to Hong Kong, carrying nothing more suspicious than a small collection of thumb drives. But on those drives lies proof that will expose how completely the American government has betrayed its citizens' trust. To understand how we arrived at this moment of total digital surveillance, we need to go back to the fear and chaos that followed September 11th, 2001. In the smoking ruins of the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, America made a Faustian bargain: freedom for security, privacy for protection. President George W. Bush didn't just push through the PRISM program. He architected a complete transformation of American surveillance capabilities. 2 pieces of legislation became the foundation of this digital police state. The Protect America Act of 2007, implemented on August 5th of that year, and the FISA Amendments Act of 2008. FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, sounds bureaucratic, almost boring. But these laws collectively permit the gathering of electronic data from countless sources while simultaneously protecting those sources from prosecution. It was legal immunity for corporate collaboration in mass surveillance. But here's where it gets truly insidious. The 2008 FISA Amendments Act wasn't created to stop Bush's illegal surveillance program. It was designed to legalize it. When the Bush-era NSA warrantless eavesdropping scandal broke, revealing that the president had secretly authorized the NSA to spy on Americans without court-approved warrants, Congress didn't shut it down. Instead, they institutionalized it. The law creates a deliberately deceptive distinction between US persons, American citizens and legal residents, and everyone else on the planet. To directly target a US person's communications, the NSA theoretically needs an individual warrant from the FISA court. But here's the loophole that swallows the rule. For all other people, wherever they are, no individual warrant is needed, even if they're communicating with Americans. Under Section 702 of the 2008 law, the NSA submits general guidelines to the FISA court once a year. The criteria is so broad it's meaningless. Surveillance must merely aid legitimate foreign intelligence gathering. Once the FISA court stamps approved on those permits, and they almost always do, the NSA is empowered to target any foreign nationals it wants and can compel telecoms and internet companies to provide access to all communications. Facebook chats, Yahoo emails, Google searches, all fair game. There's no need to prove guilt, no need to show suspicion, no need to filter out the Americans who get swept up in the dragnet. It's mass surveillance disguised as targeted intelligence gathering. What made PRISM so devastating wasn't just its scope, it was the willing participation of the companies we trusted most. This wasn't a case of government hackers breaking into corporate servers. This was a sophisticated partnership between Silicon Valley and the surveillance state. Snowden's leaks revealed that the NSA had embedded spy implants at internet exchange points where international cables meet. They ran an elite hacker unit called Tailored Access Operations that provided customized penetration solutions when general surveillance tools couldn't get the job done. They developed programs targeting every major personal computer platform, Microsoft Windows, Apple iOS, and Google Android, allowing spies to extract absolutely everything from these devices. But the crown jewel was a program called Muscular, run in partnership with the United Kingdom's government communications headquarters. This program secretly spliced into the internal fiber optic networks connecting Silicon Valley data centers, allowing the agencies to get a full take of internal company data. Yahoo was a target, so was Google. The NSA was vacuuming up everything these companies had, including the detailed profiles and dossiers they kept on users. Then there was PRISM itself, perhaps the most scandalous program Snowden revealed. PRISM involved sophisticated on-demand data collection housed within the data centers of the biggest names in Silicon Valley: Google, Apple, Facebook, Yahoo, and Microsoft. These weren't backdoors that companies didn't know about. According to the Washington Post, these companies knew about PRISM and actively helped the NSA build special access to their network systems. As one intelligence official explained, the engineering problems are so immense in systems of such complexity and frequent change that the FBI and NSA would be hard-pressed to build in backdoors without active help from each company. PRISM is administered by the FBI's Secretive Data Intercept Technology Unit, which also handles wiretaps on internet and telephone traffic flowing through major telecommunications companies, like AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon. The system works with chilling efficiency. An NSA analyst creates a data request called a tasking for a specific user. This request is routed to specialized equipment installed at each company, equipment maintained by the FBI that creates a digital wiretap forwarding intelligence to the NSA in real time. Analysts could even set up alerts for when particular targets logged into their accounts. Depending on the company, a tasking could return emails, attachments, address books, calendars, files stored in the cloud, text or audio or video chats, and metadata identifying locations, devices, and other personal information. The timeline of corporate recruitment reads like a surveillance state's wish list. Microsoft was the first to join in 2007, lending credibility to the program. Yahoo came online a year later, followed by Facebook and Google in 2009. Skype and AOL both joined in 2011. Apple, initially resistant, finally capitulated and joined the surveillance system in 2012. By 2013, PRISM had become what intelligence officials described as a key feeder system for foreign intelligence. spying on over 100,000 people annually. James R. Clapper, the same director of national intelligence who lied to Congress, later described PRISM's products as among the most important and valuable foreign intelligence information we collect. The NSA documents revealed that the agency had transformed Silicon Valley's globe-spanning platforms into a de facto intelligence collection apparatus, all with the enthusiastic help of the industry itself. PRISM even featured an easy-to-use interface with text alerts, making mass surveillance as simple as checking email. But PRISM's reach extended far beyond foreign intelligence. What outraged so many Americans was discovering that if the NSA had limited itself to spying on terrorists and genuine threats to national security, few would have complained. Instead, American hospitals, universities, private corporations, and even libraries were targeted. Bank records, doctor-patient files, and personal communications were all fair game. In perhaps the most Orwellian revelation of all, libraries were targeted because the NSA was systematically creating a database of the reading habits of the entire US population. Think about that. The government was tracking what books Americans checked out, what articles they read, what knowledge they sought. It was thought surveillance on an industrial scale. Glenn Greenwald, the journalist who broke the Snowden story, revealed the true extent of NSA analysts' power. They could listen to whatever emails they want, whatever telephone calls, browsing histories, Microsoft Word documents. And it's all done with no need to go to a court, with no need to even get supervisor approval on the part of the analyst. This wasn't oversight. This was a digital free-for-all where individual analysts had godlike power over American communications. The NSA had practical carte blanche to wade through emails, photos, instant messages, Skype conversations, texts, file transfers, voicemail messages, and live conversations by phone and internet of every US citizen and resident, all without meaningful concern for law or personal privacy. The technical capabilities were staggering. NSA documents revealed the agency's ability to provide a retrospective look at target activity, meaning they could retrieve and analyze everything, all the emails targets sent, all the places they went with Android phones in their pockets, all their digital breadcrumbs stretching back months or years. The program encompassed virtually every form of digital communication Americans use daily: Sprint, Yahoo, AT&T, Facebook, YouTube, Verizon, Google, Skype, Microsoft, Apple, Talk. Companies that had become the nervous system of modern life were feeding user data directly to the government. Snowden had already been in contact with Glenn Greenwald and documentary filmmaker Laura Poitras since January 2013, using encrypted channels and the codename Virax, Latin for truth teller. He chose Hong Kong as his destination deliberately, explaining later that they had a spirited commitment to free speech and the right of political dissent. From room 1014 of the Mira Hotel in Kowloon, Snowden spent 2 weeks with the journalists, methodically going through documents, verifying authenticity, confirming the scope of surveillance programs that most Americans couldn't have imagined in their darkest nightmares. On June 5, 2013, the first domino fell. The Guardian published the secret Verizon court order. The next day brought the PRISM revelations. 3 days later, Snowden stepped out of the shadows, sitting in that Hong Kong hotel room, knowing his life as he knew it was over. "I don't want to live in a world," he said, "where everything I do and say is recorded." The government's response was predictably defensive. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, the same man who had lied to Congress, admitted that yes, the NSA was working with companies like Facebook and Google, but claimed the program only targeted overseas individuals and groups potentially threatening to the United States. But the documents told a different story. The Guardian moved forward with remarkable speed and boldness to publish these revelations, understanding that the public had a right to know how completely their government had betrayed their trust. The backlash against big tech spurred a movement toward greater digital privacy and security. People began adopting privacy-enhancing technologies like VPNs and encrypted messaging apps to shield their online activities from government surveillance. Encryption became both a crucial tool for protecting privacy and a major point of contention between tech companies and governments. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies argued that encryption hindered their ability to investigate crimes and prevent terrorism, launching what became known as the crypto wars. an ongoing battle over whether companies should be forced to build government backdoors into their security systems. But here's what most people don't realize. While the initial shockwaves from Snowden's revelations have subsided, the surveillance apparatus has not only survived, but evolved and expanded. The USA Freedom Act, passed in 2015, imposed some limits on NSA bulk collection of phone records. But other surveillance programs continue operating in the shadows, with little transparency or accountability. The intelligence community, emboldened by its perceived successes in the war on terror, has sought to expand surveillance powers, arguing that new threats require new tools. The advent of artificial intelligence has added frightening new dimensions to surveillance capabilities. AI powered facial recognition, predictive policing, and social media monitoring give governments unprecedented abilities to track and analyze human behavior. While these technologies potentially improve public safety and efficiency, they raise profound questions about privacy, discrimination, and the erosion of due process. The same legal frameworks that enabled PRISM continue enabling new forms of mass surveillance, often with even less oversight than before. More than a decade after Edward Snowden pulled back the curtain, the surveillance state hasn't disappeared, it's evolved. What PRISM exposed became the blueprint for a new era of monitoring, powered by smartphones, social media, facial recognition, and AI. The systems that once shocked the world now operate quietly in the background, normalized, expanded, and rarely questioned. Privacy was never taken in a single moment. It was surrendered gradually through convenience, fear, and silence. Every search, every message, every digital step still feeds an invisible machine deciding who matters and who doesn't. Snowden gave up his freedom to warn us. The real question is whether we chose to listen. And here's what makes this story even more unsettling. PRISM was only the beginning. What's happening now goes far deeper than most people realize. To uncover the full story behind modern surveillance, secret courts, and what's being collected about you today, download the Scoob app now and get access to the complete deep dive. The watching never stopped, and the truth is waiting.